special edition of Awaam. Today we have Ambassador of Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, Dr. Omar Zakhilwal, with us. Thank you very much for finding time for us, sir.
Pleasure to be with you, my brother.
Why don't we go straight to some good news?
Sure.
We had a big meeting in Kabul recently, a delegation of Pakistan that included our Foreign Secretary and Army Chief and Head of Intelligence Agency, ISI. How did that meeting go?
The meeting went really well, not only in terms of the substance of the discussion, discussion of the core issues and narratives between the two countries, but also in the environment in which it took place. Environment that was full of mutual respect, full of acknowledgements that certainly both countries needed to put ourselves on a track to close and cordial relations, but in order to be there, there are certainly outstanding issues to which both sides are committed to remove. There is a mistrust between the two countries that needs to be overcome in order to provide that space for progress. So in that sense, I would say it was a very positive meeting that certainly generated a lot of optimism, cautious optimism in me. Cautious, I say, because there have been meetings held before for which we were optimistic, but unfortunately they've disappointed us. But we hope that this meeting is not one of those, and it's a meeting that there will be further follow-up on this. And of course, there's been an agreement and a commitment on both sides that there will be a follow-up on this, not only in terms of meetings, but in terms of actions. And we hope to see actions that sends the right signal for moving forward.
There was a lot of optimism even a couple of years ago, yes, when the president of Afghanistan, Dr. Ghani, came to Pakistan, and he gave statements in which he said that we have covered space in 3 days that we couldn't cover in 3 decades. Yes. So there is a lot of disbelief, surprise, optimism, a mixed kind of mood in the world, also in Pakistan. So why should we believe that this would not, this spring would not turn into another autumn, as it has been in the recent past? How do we believe? What was so different this time?
Yeah, that meeting was 3 years ago. I was part of that meeting. And when I said that there have been meetings in the past which had generated so much optimism, but at the end we've been disappointed, I certainly was alluding to those meetings, no doubt about it. And it's a very right question to ask. And that's why I said, when I say optimistic, I say cautiously optimistic, precisely for that purpose. But my hope, and as well as understanding, is that past mistakes have been acknowledged. It's been acknowledged in Pakistan that the opportunity that came about in 2014, November 2014's visit, and the subsequent meetings and all that was mismanaged. So that's a significant acknowledgement. And that things could have been handled differently. One of that would have been, again, a limited number of actions could have been delivered upon, but which were not. Maybe certain commitments should not have been made at that time, which were too difficult to deliver upon. And at the same time, I think we've seen ups and downs. We've seen in our relations, macho handling of the relations, which has not really produced much. We've tried all the negatives, and that has not helped Pakistan, that has not helped Afghanistan. There was rhetoric, rightly so, between the two countries that was not helpful though, and acknowledge that that rhetoric should be tempered down, and it has been tempered down significantly, particularly if you look into the past 6-7 months. There's no shortage of incidents that's happening in Afghanistan certainly, but also in Pakistan, and yet the rhetoric has not been as negative as it used to be, and it's purposely tempered down so that to provide that space for talks. And if it wasn't for the reduction of that rhetoric, this meeting led by General Bajwa would not have happened. That is what I'm saying is looking into the past, the failures of the past, and learning from the past, and the discussion of those failures, and acknowledgement of those failures is something that should give us greater hope. The changing regional dynamics is another one. Pakistan, we believe, have influence over the Taliban. It's debatable to what extent. But that influence with the changing regional dynamics might be diminishing. So there may come a time that Pakistan would want to be fully on board and want to help, but may not be able to help in. And if whatever influence it has right now, if that is used again to push for peace and stability in the country, it would be the right thing for Pakistan to do so, and it's been acknowledged as such, and that is what again gives us hope and optimism.
When we talk about mistakes made, were mistakes made only on one side of the Duran line, or both sides?
No, both sides. I think both sides. So when I say mistakes have happened, I would not be unbiased to say that more have been made by Pakistan. This relationship between Afghanistan and Pakistan is looked upon sometimes from the angle of a third country, rather than to be focused sort of on Pakistan relationship with Afghanistan. Is sometimes reactionary.
Let's name that elephant in the room.
That's India.
Yes.
That's India. So looking sometimes, for example, Pakistan looks into Afghan-Indian relationship and it reacts to it, rather than focusing on how to strengthen Pakistan-Afghanistan relations. And that, I think, has been one of the core difficulties. And again, when I say acknowledgement, there has been an acknowledgement of that, and that is what gives me optimism.
So when we had this recent meeting, we heard about some benchmarks, we heard about some timelines. Yeah. So how do we translate this to the people of Pakistan or to the people of both countries? What, roughly kind of commitments or benchmarks are made? What is Pakistan supposed to do? What is Afghanistan supposed to do to remove all these hurdles in strengthening of relationship?
I'm not going to go into the discussion of benchmarks. I'm not going to go to timelines in those sort of issues, precisely because I would not want to generate expectations then we fail to deliver upon, and then of course, or there is a delay in the delivering of certain things that we expect, and then we disappoint people, and I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to say is that the success of this visit would be judged by further interactions in meetings at different levels between Afghanistan and Pakistan, and also by some practical steps and actions that are visible enough to the people to convince them that this time it's different. without naming those actions, because they will have to come to the surface. I'm looking forward to seeing that. I do believe that there will be certain, with the sincerity that was expressed in the meeting, with the believable sincerity that was expressed in the meeting, I do hope and expect that there will be, and as the president's, Afghanistan's president's special representative and ambassador, and somebody who's been keenly involved in this discussion, I'm not a bystander to this. I also, again, am involved in the discussions and sort of debates, and at times pushing both sides to show to the people of Pakistan and Afghanistan, because the desire of the people of Pakistan and Afghanistan is a very close, cordial, and special relationship. And their desire should be listened to and adhered to, and should be reflected at the leadership level of the governments as well.
Pakistan's foreign minister and Pakistan's prime minister have recently said, and many other leaders from civilian and military sides have been saying it over and over, that yes, we want to help and support peace in Afghanistan, but we will not fight the war of Afghanistan on our soil.
We agree with that. We totally agree with that.
So
no, but yeah, please. To fight war, that means Pakistan cannot fight Afghan Taliban on Pakistani soil, but Pakistan can expel Afghan Taliban from its soil. That's not fighting. And there's a very fair expectation of Afghanistan. We don't want Pakistan to fight our war, but it would be fair to ask of Pakistan not to allow bases for Taliban of whatever they are, financing for Taliban, whatever it is, madrasas or other places for recruitment to Taliban of whatever they are, to be taking place in Pakistan. And that needs to be responded to. And that's a very fair and perhaps the minimum of an expectation that a neighboring country can have of another neighboring country.
Pakistan's position on this has been that there are no safe sanctuaries after the military operations that we have had recently, especially after northern Afghanistan, northern Waziristan. Pakistan's position is that we have no training camps or sanctuaries. We do have millions of Afghans, and we have no way of identifying who is who, because if we have foreign nationals, there may be Haqqani network sympathizers, maybe Taliban sympathizers, maybe individual people moving in and out. But training camps, sanctuaries, supply depots, this kind of thing does not exist. And recently, our foreign minister even went to the extent inviting Americans and others, if you go with us, get seated in the helicopter, don't tell us in advance, just locate where they are and we will go and take them out. Do you take that seriously?
There have been mixed messages, actually. I'm not going into the details of naming, calling them sort of sanctuaries or bases or training camps or whatever. But even by Pakistani officials, there have been different statements, even by Foreign Minister Khwaja Asif Saab. There's been, your earlier statement contradicts this. Your earlier statement, they said the Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister said that we cannot fight Afghanistan's war on Pakistani soil. Why would they say this? They would acknowledge that there are elements of Taliban on Pakistani soil, but we don't want to fight them, right? And then the second one, that there are no elements of Taliban on our soil, just contradicts the first one. When you say, I'm not going to fight, first you admit that there are elements. The second, you admit that you know them, who they are. Otherwise, how are you going to fight? You know? So these messages been mixed messages. I mean, there has been acknowledgement by Khwaja Sahib. He said this, but he also said that it's been a mistake of Pakistan to be hosting or to be entertaining the Haqqanis. We need to distance ourselves from the Haqqanis. That by itself, what does it mean? There's an acknowledgement that there is some relationship of whatever that is. Of whatever, I'm not going to go to characterize in that, well, whatever it is. So I think we need to get out of these mixed messages. We need to be sincere with each other. We need to acknowledge mistakes or things that are there, and in fact has not helped Pakistan. Has hurt Pakistan probably after Afghanistan the most. Afghanistan being hurt the most. The country that's been hurt the most right after Afghanistan has been Pakistan. So these things do not help, and that requires that there's been acknowledgement of things that have taken place. We will not be making any show of it, of whatever has happened to date, as long as forward looking, that this influence is used constructively, this influence is used positively, and that we, moving forward, are given the assurances, believable assurances that yes, the free movement of Taliban leadership and Taliban fighters and Taliban commanders and the fundraising and all that, you would agree with me that prominent ulamas of Pakistan to date openly declare jihad in Afghanistan, don't they? And these are individuals who are significant. They are individuals who are teachers of Taliban leaders, host Taliban leaders, commanders. Their children are still there in training. They still have the relationship and all that. So those things are I mean, I'm asking you, don't you hear them?
We have to take a short break, and when we come back, we will continue our discussion. Welcome back. We are talking to Dr. Omar Zakhilwal, special representative of Afghan president and the ambassador of Islamic Republic of Afghanistan in Islamabad. Dr. Zakhilwal, yes, there are clergymen and elements who have said that in the past and who continue to say it that the Taliban war against the government of Afghanistan is jihad. There are elements, but we are talking concretely about safe sanctuaries and military bases. Pakistani government constantly denies there is such a thing, and that's why they keep saying that we are ready to work with the Afghan government or the international interlocutors to verify that. So this remains a bone of contention. I don't know what happens in the background meetings.
No, it doesn't remain a bone of contention. When I say there have been open, candid discussion, I cannot get into the details of it. Open, candid discussion and acknowledgement of mistakes that have happened, acknowledgement of the difficulties or perhaps flaws with certain elements of Pakistan's policies for Afghanistan. It covers part of that. So I'm a forward-looking person. I'm not going to go into the past or even to the present where and make it such sort of a debated and heated discussion that it prevents us from moving forward. And that's why I said when I say the discussion, the recent discussion that we are holding are positive in nature, it includes very open and candid elements that publicly maybe we cannot say it. On both sides, I should say. And that's why it gives me the energy to continuously be engaged in this and push this from both sides, and with the hope that sooner than later we have an environment of mutual trust, of cordiality, of people moving back and forth freely, easily, goods moving back and forth freely, easily, and that we have a win-win relationship, that we do not have a relationship that is based on grievances, but based on happiness and opportunities. And sky's the limit with respect to that.
Dr. Zakhilwal, I truly envy your optimism and positive attitude towards this relationship and the future of a relationship between both countries. But what we hear and read from Pakistani side constantly is that it refers to reports that 40% of Afghanistan is out of the control of Kabul government. And there are many countries who are supporting Taliban. Now we hear the names of countries like Russia. We hear the names of Iran and some Gulf countries. So this kind of narrative is also there, that allies, the NATO countries, United States, despite more than 150,000 soldiers, have not been able to help Afghan state and strengthen Afghan National Army. So basically, we are being scapegoated. The failures of Afghan government, the failures of the allies of Afghan forces, since they have not been able to defeat the insurgency because of their own failures. Pakistan is being blamed, and Pakistan is told to pay the price of their failure since we couldn't succeed. So do defeat Afghan insurgency. This is what constantly we hear.
Yeah, let me, first of all, I've heard particularly Khwaja Asif lately, and in this, the role of Khwaja Asif is not to be an expert witness on this, or to advise international forces or the Afghan government and be sort of concerned about the territory that's not under our control, and just now focusing more on that. From Khwaja Asif representing the government of Pakistan as a foreign minister, and from the Pakistani government, that becomes our concern as to how much territory is or is not under our control. That becomes our concern. That becomes our concern as to how we have or have not made progress on peace and all that. That becomes the concern of our government and our international allies, whether we failed or succeeded in the fight and all that. These are not the issues of contentions between us and Pakistan. The issues of contentions between us and Pakistan is that Pakistan needs to respond to and resolve the grievances and irritants that we have with respect to the presence of Taliban leadership or some Taliban leaders on the ground. They're moving around, their financing, I repeat, their recruitment, I repeat. This narrative that there are 2 million or 2.5 million refugees are present here, and amongst them is Taliban leaders, and amongst them is commanders, and amongst them is madrasas, and it would be difficult for us to recognize which one is the leader and which one is not. I'm sure you will not believe with me in this narrative either. It's inconceivable that a movement as big and as strong as the Taliban ones, directed by shuras, Quetta Shura, there is a reason why it's called Quetta Shura, because it was in Quetta. It was formed in Quetta. It was, the leadership was in Quetta. That it was not, that it is not within the knowledge of the institutions here or of the government here. It's inconceivable. So that's why I do not want to get into that, because this is no longer even a news. For us or for you, that a certain Taliban commander was moving around in Pakistan, or had a house in Pakistan, or had recruitment activity in Pakistan, or had a mentor in Pakistan, or had some financing in Pakistan, or had offices in Pakistan. You know, Kuchlak in Quetta is a very known place. And that is where Mullah Haibatullah's madrasa is still functioning. And he was in Kuchlak the day before he became the Amir of Taliban. If somebody is so important that after the death of Mullah Mansour, the next day he becomes the Emir, and he's openly there, openly traveling between Karachi and in Quetta, openly in Karachi papers, in functions that he participates, his name is written. There's, you know, the chief guest or special guest will be Mullah Haibatullah and this and that, and he's today the Emir of that. And I can show you those papers and all that. So could it be without the knowledge? Would you believe it? No. I'm sure you won't. So that's not even a news. And that's why if we get into the discussion, that type of a discussion, then we are not getting anywhere. And that's why I'm saying is, I'm not going to the details of the discussion. We're not focusing on that discussion. That I say, and he denies, and I say, okay, I believe or do not believe you. Or I didn't believe you, but now I believed you, and that's why this meeting is positive. We're not into that discussion. We're not even discussing that. And that's why I'm saying when there is a construct, there's an acknowledgement. That maybe not to the extent, acknowledgement to the extent that we claim, but to a certain extent that acknowledgement is there, to a certain extent that actions would be taken to reverse that, and that's what gives us optimism and hope.
Our foreign minister had a meeting with your national security advisor, yes, Hanif Atmar.
Yes, he did.
And one of the things that came out of that meeting was our foreign minister saying that one of the things that were discussed was that we have some people in our custody in, yes, Pakistan, yes, and Afghanistan has some people in custody, and there was a suggestion of extraditing, yes, or exchange.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes, true. It's true. It's been said, I've offered it, we repeat it. We have some leaders of TTP in our custody, and we have no hesitation to give them to Pakistan. And there are some Taliban commanders and leaders in Pakistan's custody. And that by itself says there is an accusation that we support the TTP in Afghanistan. If we did, we would not be willing to give up those leaders to you. So we are absolutely open to that.
Can you name some people that you want from Pakistan?
Oh, there is Mullah Biradar, there is Mullah Nane, there are quite a few names, a few commanders. You know, some of the names slipped my mind, but there are.
How helpful Mullah Biradar would be to you?
It's not a helpful issue. It could or could not be helpful. But what I'm saying is that these are
your nationals.
Our nationals, people who commanded destruction on our side, and TTP has commanded destruction on our side. They should be extradited. You treat them the way you want to, we'll treat them the way we want to.
So give us a good news. When is Dr. Ghani coming to Pakistan?
He accepted the invitation, but the visit has not been discussed. We need to see some progress on the discussion of the meetings, and then that will create the environment for him to come.
You want to improve relations, but you haven't invited our foreign minister yet. Khaja Asif told me that last time he visited Kabul was way in 1972.
We certainly will invite him, absolutely.
So should we consider this as an open invitation?
Not an open. I would actually go in person to him and invite him on behalf of the government.
Soon?
Soon I will do that.
So just the last thing, there was negative news of postponement of a meeting on Afghan Transit Authority.
I heard about it when in the news here. I certainly will look into it. I mean, I'm surprised as to why I was not aware of it. I don't think it's a government-wide decision that that meeting did not take place. It's not significant to the extent that's portrayed in the media, though. It's a meeting of Commerce Ministry officials from both sides. But nonetheless, it should take place. I'll look into it and we'll push for that meeting to take place.
And is there any another bilateral meeting
there has to be
scheduled between no, apart from the trade? You know.
No, yeah, definitely. There has to be. There will be. There will be a lot of bilateral meetings.
And you're hopeful that after this recent Kabul meetings, some misgivings and these misunderstandings will...
Both misunderstanding, misgivings, but also there are some real issues as well. So those real issues will be responded to, but also, of course, we have a lot of misperceptions between ourselves as well, and that we need to remove.
Dr. Zakhilwal, there are a lot of other issues that we could have discussed, but we are short of time. I'm hopeful that next time we will be able. And that brings our candid conversation with Dr. Zakhilwal to a close. That's it for today. Goodbye.